Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome today. Here we are again in this Zoom world. We do have a speaker prior to council today. Patrick Bolt is speaking today. Got it. Have we got Patrick in the waiting room yet, Debbie?
Yep, I'm just bringing Patrick in now.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Patrick.
Hi, Tanya. How are you doing?
Good. How are you today?
Fantastic. Beautiful background.
The Grey River. Yep.
Can you see my background?
No, we can't see you yet. I can hear you though.
Okay, I just give you a possibility here on the right. So can you see me now?
Yes, there you go. Thank you, Punakaiki.
Yeah, the beautiful pancake box and a nice bottle of safe next to it.
Later.
After the meeting.
Okay, everybody, we have Patrick here today. Patrick is the owner of a business owner at Punakaiki, and he's here today to speak to us about civil defence procedures out there. And Patrick, we're being recorded, so that's okay. You have 10 minutes there to speak. So welcome to you today. I hope you've been going well in lockdown, and the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks for that, and thanks for letting me speaking today to the great district council. So before I just proceed, I just give myself a little bit of introduction who I am and what I do. So I run the Pancake Rocks Cafe, which is next to the Pancake Rocks, obviously, and then the Rata View in Barrytown, which is the function venue and accommodation. The Paparoa Park Motel, which is in the Great District, is the same like the Rata View in Barrytown. So I also run the Tasman Sea Retreat, which is Fox River area. And I just have been the owner until February about the beach hostel. So it's quite a few kind of tourism places what I run up here in Pune. And I'm quite connected to this other kind of business operator like Ian from the tavern and so on. So just like to give you a bit of background. And the reason why I just want to speak today is that I think just like yesterday, we had this big staff article about the major earthquake, what we have to expect in the next 50 years, apparently, and recent events. And I highly concerned that we are not prepared. So So I actually want to speak to the Great District Council. I still want to do that to the Bulla District Council, because Punakaiki is a bit difficult because we are split in half, as everyone knows. So from Punakaiki River, where I own 2 businesses, we are Grey, and the rest is Bulla. So basically, that's why I go in contact to the different kind of areas. And so my biggest concern is when you had the chance to just have a look at the staff article from the 6th of September with Claire Brown from the Westland District Council, that she stated communication is a big issue. And I just can kind of, I found it a little bit, how can I say, amazing that she stated that, because I made aware to the management team of the civil defense, to Claire Brown, to Erica Andrews and Mike from Great District Council, that I feel that we are not prepared, because we have several issues here when it comes to that, in particular in communication. So especially out here in Punakaiki, where there is on most of the places no cell phone cover, there is no kind of proper warning system in place where we have a chance to inform people in an event of emergency. In particular, I could see that with the 2 cyclones we had, Cyclone Fehi, Cheetah, where we had high floods, high swells of waves coming in, and the communication system has failed. So I actually met with my coordinators here in Fox River, who is in charge for me at where I live. And I raised that kind of issues. And it seems like there's no money for more investigation into communication, because what we have seen from overseas, especially in Germany, when they had a big flood, probably everyone has heard about it. So they invest now again in sirens, because they have found out that particular cell phone cover or cell phone warning is not working properly in most of the cases, especially when there is a fallout. And I actually made those suggestions about sirens, what we have to look into, especially for a remote area where you have no cell phone cover. We are very isolated here. From Haast until to Karamea, and there is a lot of places where there is not even cell phone cover. And my biggest problem is how we inform those people in an event of emergency. So that's one thing. Then the other thing was I went in contact, as I said, with Claire Brown, and I raised some issues. And I just give you some of those topics. When I said, there is an updated list where we find all the equipment. Then I asked, where is the emergency equipment situated? And a detailed list of what kind of equipment is available. So I got actually back from the management team from Westport at this time, where they said, I just read you down what I got as a reply. Numerous times with myself, in the past years, both in person and emails. However, to ensure your business partners are informed, I not report or respond again to your questions anymore, because the fact is that was duplicated questions. So I think, sorry about that. And I think, first of all, obviously, I accommodate hundreds of people up here, and I think this is a valid point, my questions to be asked, and I think they got kind of ignored. That's why I'm coming to this council meetings and say, hey, look, we have a problem here. And the big thing is definitely about the information. So we have, for example, several badges along here where there is no procedure in there, where people can get in contact in an emergency. So I think there should be somehow organized kind of information sheet, what should be look all over the same, where you find the radio, where is your contact details, where you can find help. Also, I think we have a problem with signage, especially on the beachfront areas. When you go somewhere overseas, who had really big tsunamis happening, you find signs where you find higher ground. And I raised that issue as well. And then I got the answer that with the earthquake, obviously there could be some kind of ways blocked where you put a sign and say that's where you find higher ground. But the problem is in Punakaiki, particularly in the beachfront area, for example, and there's other examples, if you don't know where you find higher ground, you can walk to the left instead of where it's a shorter cut, but there is no higher ground, you have to go right. So I think signage is a big problem. The equipment is a problem. The communication at the moment with all notifications, it works at the moment that you get from Wellington, you get the emergency information to the coordinator or to Erica and Mike, and they have to break it down to their coordinators in Punakaiki or in Fox River, whatever. But if they're not around, sometimes I have a delay of even 6 or 7 hours. So the best example is yesterday, they issued a high swell warning, which is 6 to 7 meters waves. But the time gap from when it was issued until I got the email was about 6.5 hours. So when I still was running the beach hostel, where you're not always around, news and stuff like that. So that's very valued time, but I missed out to get the sandbars out to get prepared for that kind of swells. And that's not just like the Punakaiki area. So that's all the badges who are very close to Fox River and just like next to it. So I think that's a big problem in that kind of communication thing, because it goes from Wellington to the councils, and then Erica or Mike has to give it to the coordinator, but we lose a lot of time. So I think it should be more instant communication. and the communication way should be much faster. So I miss out most of that quite often, and very concerning is obviously all dispatches where the owner is not on site. So if you have any issues happening in any alert level, it could be a cyclone, it could be a tsunami. So how we get warned those people who actually basically living or tourists or domestic traveler who actually have no cell phone cover and no information about anything sitting next to that beach. So that was one point. And yeah, so I think basically my big problem is signage, communication, the equipment. It's not very clear where we can find that. Even it changes quite often. So for example, I could not find out the Paparoa Park Motel who is in charge for the civil defense side from that side, and basically, yeah, the overall communication and also the kind of reaction from that email side what I received from Erica at this stage from Bulla Council. Yeah, I felt a little bit let down in my ideas, and when we go back to the statistics, I think especially for very remote areas, sirens still are a really helpful tool and probably sometimes the only tool to get people informed of an event in an emergency. So I believe we're not prepared.
Thank you, Patrick. Punakaiki certainly is a very vulnerable area, and West Coast Civil Defence is going through a review at the moment, and it is getting quite a good looking at the structure, especially after the Bulla event. But is there any other questions from the councillors that they would like to ask Patrick? No. So I assume that there will be some submissions to that review at some point. Paul, do you know how that will be working?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I am not sure that there will be a submission process. This will be an internal review undertaken by a qualified person. However, what I suspect we need to do is we need to notify them that there are concerned ratepayers, residents, business owners, and that they should get together and organise a meeting and come and have a conversation, much like we've had today, Patrick, and get all of the concerned people around the table so that they can all express their views. I think that would be appropriate. Yeah,
and look, so also when we just talked about the recent events, I just give you one example. So we had guests staying in the Paparoa Park Motel, which is in the Great District, and I was not available over phone because I have no cell phone cover at Fox River. And they actually tried to get hold of the number what they found on Facebook for the emergency team there. And I can tell you, luckily there was someone next to them who know the area a bit better, because they asked, can we still drive to Fox River to their badge? And then the information was, yes, you can, because there is a slip in Mabel Bay. So the people not even knew that Mabel Bay slip was before Fox River. So that's another thing. So I think there was a lot of miscommunication. And what is really sad, I have to say, is the fact that meanwhile in Punakaiki and Barrytown, there is formed a separate Facebook community group who actually talking to each other in an event of an emergency. And I watched both sides. And the big problem is obviously in that not driven by professionals like this private kind of Facebook site, what one private person kind of collected all the Facebook contacts. There was a lot of misinformation in there. So you clearly can see they don't trust the official lines, and therefore they create their private kind of emergency tools. But that's a big risk and danger in that, because I believe, you know, it has to be driven by facts and not by guessings.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick.
Yeah,
we'll note those concerns down, and you have put them in writing as well, and you are presenting to Bulla.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. Have a fantastic evening.
Thank you. You too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so we're going to proceed straight into the next meeting. It's now 3:59, so we will just wait. Are you good with that, Debbie?
Yep, that sounds good, thanks.
Okay. Okay, welcome everyone to the ordinary meeting of council on Tuesday, the 7th of September. It's now 4 o'clock and I will declare the meeting open. Thank you for everyone who is in attendance today. And again, and with lockdown levels, we find ourselves on Zoom. Please keep your microphones off to avoid background noise. And when it comes to the voting, please raise your hand and keep your hand raised just so that we can count the votes when we're going into passing motion. Returning to page 4, item 1. Apologies. We have an apology today from Kai Whakahiri Tūmahai, who cannot be here today. I'll move that. Can I please have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Haddock. Okay, item 2 and 3, updates to the interest register and conflicts of interest. If there are any updates, please register them. And if there are any conflicts of interest, please declare them now or as the meeting proceeds. Councillor Mora, do you have something to say there?
2 conflicts of interest for the landfill assistance with the Shed Youth Program and the Cobden Opportunity Shop.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Do you have them registered?
Yes, registered.
Thank you. Turning to page 5, confirmation of previous meetings. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 28th of June 2021 be confirmed as true and correct. And the minutes of the meeting of the Tenders Subcommittee held on the 12th of May 2021, road safety barrier, Taylorville Road and Gantry Bridge, contract 2020-21-33 be received and noted. And 3, that the minutes of the meeting of the Risk and Assurance Committee held on the 2nd of August 2021 be received and noted. I'll move that. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'd be happy to move second that, Your Worship.
Councillor Haddock. Are there any comments? All those in favour, raise your hands. Motion carried. Turning to page 26, status reports of council. I trust that you have all read the status reports. Are there any questions or comments there? Councillor Mora?
Your Worship, I'm just wondering, given that the Rapahoe community have decided not to enter into a licence to occupy, what's going to be the way forward with regarding to flood protection? Are we leaving that now with the regional council, or what's happening there?
Paul, would you like to speak to that, please?
Can I declare an interest in that item, please?
Yes, thank you, Murray. Is that registered there, Debbie, for Murray as a conflict?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our position has always been it's been a regional council issue. The resource consent is held by the regional council, and I would expect that the regional council should take up the mantle, and we can offer them a license to occupy for the existing bund on the road. I guess the decision of the Rapahoe community was made quite recently, so we now need to start talking with the regional council and see what their appetite is.
Thank you. Any more questions there? No, can you all hear me clearly? You're all good? Okay, turning to page 28, Mayor's update report. I can tell you a lot of this seems like a long time ago, but the recommendation is that the Mayor's activity report for the months of June and July 2021 be received. I'll move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Are there any comments? All those in favour, please raise your hand. Motion carried. Moving on to members' remuneration on page 31. Okay, elected members get annually pay reviews from the Remuneration Authority, and the decision is taken out of our hands. I am quite glad to see that the Mayor does have no pay rise in there, and I'm sure that a lot of you will be resistant to this, but the choice is taken out of your hands, and the Remuneration Authority are the ones that make this decision. Can I please have no, I've got to go down to the recommendation. Hold on, all my devices. Okay. The recommendation is that the elected members' remuneration and allowances be received, and 2, that council endorses the following remuneration rates for elected members that are attached in the bottom table below, which I trust you have read, which is in the agenda. 3, council approves the updated version of the elected members' allowances and recovery of expenses policy to reflect the changes to the information or communications technology allowances. And 4, that council revisits the decision to not include the childcare provision in the elected members' allowance and recovery of expenses policy prior to the 2022 local government elections. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Becker, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Gibson. Are there any comments? Councillor Hay?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I said this last time and I'll say it again. I can't support a recommendation that gives some councillors more than others in remuneration. I think we are all elected as equals, and I think we should all get paid equally. I know some councils may have a heavier workload, but I think that is easily fixed by sharing the workload amongst the other councillors, and we can solve that problem. So I will be voting against it.
Well, I have to say that Councillor Becker, especially in the One District Plan, spends hours and hours in meetings. He's had a 6-hour meeting this week again, and has 2 this month on just the One District Plan. So there are quite heavier workloads for some other councillors in transport and the deputy mayor. So that's why those are in place. Are there any other comments?
I do accept that some of the councillors do have a heavier workload, with the exception of the deputy mayor that has to be paid more because he or she has higher expectations placed upon them and a heavy workload filling in for her worship when she's not available. I know that, but I think the other councillors should all be paid equally.
Thank you. Any more comments, Councillor Becker?
You have to unmute, Anton.
Oh. Unmute, Anton. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. When that decision was made, Councillor Haddock and I actually left the room and left it up to the councillors. I'm quite happy to do that again now if you'd like to revisit that. So I'm certainly not here to do the job for the money.
No, I don't believe that any of us councillors are. We're there for the community. Any more comments there?
I'm not particularly worried, Your Worship. You know, I'm not there for the money either, so I'm not particularly worried. Councillor Becker is doing a hell of a lot more work than what I am at the moment on the one plan, and I know that's got a huge workload, you know, on that. So I'm not particularly worried either way.
Any more comments? Councillor Becker, would you like to stand out of this vote, or would you like to proceed? I don't think that there's any particular conflict there. Is that right, Paul? Have you got anything to say there?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't see there's any conflict because the decision has been made in the past to A, set the portfolio structures up the way we have, and then B, go through this process 12 months ago to notify the remuneration authority of the levels that we wanted to set. I'm unsure as to what the process would be if the council decided to revisit the allocation of portfolios right now to achieve a more equitable distribution of funds, and how that might impact going forward. I guess this is the last one, given that the elections for local government are next year, and we get to redecide portfolio levels again. So I'm just, I'll point that out, but that's the only comment that I have, Madam Mayor.
Yes, so that decision really, this is not about the structure, is it? It's about the remuneration changes for this year. So the structure has already been passed.
Yes, you have. You did that at the last, the inaugural meeting of this council.
Yeah, so there's no changes to that. Councillor Mora?
Slightly different issue, just a clarification. The thing about home internet connection allowance, mobile phone allowance, is that already built into the disbursement we get, or is that something else? I just don't understand.
If I may, Madam Mayor, perhaps Catherine might be able to answer that question.
Madam Mayor, it's actually done, it's further down, but it's not listed as a specific amount. It's listed as recovery of expenses. So upon showing us an invoice for the cost, then you can be reimbursed in the policy. So the policy slightly differs from the remuneration authority in that respect. It doesn't set it as a lump sum.
Thank you. Okay, shall we put it to the vote then, please? So all those in favour, please raise your hand.
I'll abstain, please, Your Worship.
Okay, Debbie, Councillor Becker has abstained, and the only
Your Worship, please.
and Councillor Haddock, and
Councillor Becker moved the motion, didn't he?
Yeah, I did. Can I still do that?
can I have a another mover of the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Mora. We'll change that if that's okay. Okay, so everybody that I could see voted for apart from Murray, is that right? Apart from the two abstain. So that motion carried.
Madam Mayor, I think you should actually put the request for against so that Councillor Hay can record his vote.
Councillor is against. Thank you, Councillor Hay. So he's right, well, he's nodding, but yes, thank you. Okay. Okay, Debbie, I think Murray would like that vote recorded. Would you, Murray?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
it's recorded, Murray.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion carried in this technical world. Righty-ho, moving on to page 46, West Coast Wilderness Trail Application Fund. So I'll give you a minute there to find on your other devices. So the West Coast Wilderness Trail is a great asset to our region and our district, and it has many other benefits and offshoots to businesses in our region in hospitality and domestic tourism. It's also a great asset to the wellbeing and supports a lot of the wellbeing and our community. And the funding that the committee has asked for, it is existing funding that was already from our maintenance budget that wasn't used there. So the recommendation is from Councillor Haddock on page 45.
And the recommendation is that 1, the report West Coast Wilderness Trail application for funding be received. 2, that the council approve the application for a grant of $10,000 for the West Coast Wilderness Trail, and that these funds come from the unspent maintenance budget allocated from the year ended 30th of June 2021. And 3, that in the next term that they refer to the contestable fund. And if I could speak to that, Your Worship, I believe that in this occasion,
Have you added that?
I have added, yep, onto number 3, that in the coming years that we reverted to the contestable fund. And if I could speak to that, I believe, we haven't had any maintenance, but who knows what's around the corner. So I think it's wise that we actually leave the maintenance budget and see what happens in the coming years. Thank you.
Peter, second that, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hay. Did you get that seconded? Councillor Gibson, did you have something to say there?
Yeah, I totally agree with Peter, but especially when after the cycle trail's on the edge of the beach, it could take, the whole lot could get wiped out in one night.
Councillor McDonald?
I'm a frequent user of the trail myself, and I wholeheartedly support it and the trust. It's one of the few tours and draw cards that we've got, and it emanates straight from our CBD. So that's one of the big benefits of it. The other one is the well-being of the GDC ratepayers, and particularly at the moment with the COVID levels and the citizens of Greymouth being able to use it. But I just have a couple of questions. So, do we levy that money annually?
Sorry, Councillor Hay, you're quite sort of, Councillor McDonald, you're quite sort of muffled.
What about there? Am I any better there?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. My apologies for looking straight down the camera.
That's okay, I'll turn mine up too.
Do we look? So we levied 44.5 K last year. Is that specifically for the trail? And have we? Will we continue to levy that this year? Probably Catherine. Sorry, through the net.
If I may, Madam Mayor, the $44,000 was levied for maintenance. That's our share to maintain our track, and we continue to levy a maintenance portion going forward. The $10,000 grant for this is for the admin and marketing side of the trail. This is for the trust to manage it, I guess, on our behalf. Westland District put in 15,000 for their part of it, and I guess the question that I had is this is proposed to be a one-off, and they were asked to go to the contestable fund last time and weren't successful. I'm just wondering whether we should actually accept that it's an important part and we should actually fund it properly and rate for it going forward, rather than putting them through the potential of not of going through a contestable fund and not being successful, and then running on the back. Effectively, that means we run on the back of Westland and we don't necessarily contribute our fair share towards the trail operation.
I tend to agree with that. Councillor Mora, what did you have to say there?
Look, I totally support what Paul's just said, Your Worship. I think to send them to the contestable fund, I don't really think that this fits the contestable fund funding rationale or criteria very well, and it would also, if it was ever acceptable, would cut out pretty much a big bulk of the funding that's available to smaller groups. So I actually would like to see us remove the part of the motion that Peter added that said to go to the contestable fund, and actually take that out and just leave points 1 and 2. So I'd like to move an amendment that we take the third point out about applying to the contestable fund next year. And I agree that it should become an annual allocation from us to the trust.
I would like to second that, Councillor Mora. Sorry, Councillor Becker. Sorry, you're on. The mic's off.
Sorry. Can we perhaps look at it, adding that into the economic development rate? We still haven't brought it up to that full amount that we reduced it from during COVID last year.
If I may, Madam Mayor, that is entirely a possibility. What I'm suggesting is that council commit to funding it. We haven't decided or proposed how that funding might occur. So the economic development rate could be the avenue to use, because I I guess the businesses, etc., of Greymouth are the ones that benefit. So potentially that would be a good funding source.
Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, so just going on from where I was before, do we have a mechanism in place for tracking that spending? Like we had 44K or 45K that we put aside. I mean, and only 18 of it, we could still have that levy put aside. And is there any way we could earmark, say, 33% of it for admin and marketing? That would give them about 15K. And then the balance would be for your maintenance, with a proviso that if there was any left over, it goes into a pool and just accumulates for those unexpected events. But going back to that, how do we currently track what we spend on it, and who decides what we spend that money that we're putting aside for?
If I may, Madam Mayor, I think that's a question Mel, and in conjunction with Catherine, could answer.
Okay, so the cycle trail expenditure has its own code, so we can track it quite easily on what we've spent it on, and the roading team actually allocate funds there, so they make the decisions on the maintenance level. So that's Mel's team.
So it's not actually the trust itself. So
No.
Okay, so going into there, is there some way that we can put that mechanism in place to for a portion of it to go towards the admin and marketing of it? I mean, to be fair, I'm the same as everyone else. I'd give it more money if I could. And I think I voted on kicking it out of the contestable fund the last time because I understood that they were getting a significant amount of money, which obviously they haven't been picking it up. And sorry, just before, one more thing, the realignment of the path around the platform. Do we think it's fair that money should be allocated to that when it's already allocated for the path? Shouldn't that go to out of the pool that the platform was paid for?
Councillor Haddock? Right.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I don't mind if it was going to have a fund of the $10,000 be an annual grant, but what I didn't really want to see it that we were taking it out of that, it'd have to come from something else other than the maintenance budget, because I'm concerned that while we've only spent a small amount at the moment, we could have any event or the maintenance, and eventually it's going to need more top coursing and the like. So I'm happy to remove, to agree with your to Tim's amendment, taking 3 out, as long as that isn't coming out of the maintenance budget, that we find some other funds from somewhere. Thank you.
The process here is we need to vote on that amendment, and then we need to do some work on that later on. So I'll put that to the vote that we receive that amendment on number 3. Everyone raise their hands. Who's in favour? Against? Motion carried. So we're working on the 1 and 2. So I'll pop that to the vote. Has everybody had another look at that there? Just give Debbie a little bit of time to type there. Okay, shall we pop that to the vote?
Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Mora wants to say something.
Sorry, he's off my screen. I can't see him. So Councillor Mora, sorry.
It's just a question from the pre-reading. 2.5 says we want to widen the area around the platform. I thought we'd given the flood wall to the regional council now. And that those sort of things would have belonged to them for changing.
Paul, would you like to speak to that?
Mel would probably be the best one to answer that. The flood wall itself, the actual flood wall structure, will be given to the regional council, certainly. But I guess the stuff that sits on top of it will still be our asset that we'll have to maintain.
Yeah, Mel here. There was a couple of questions. I didn't get the chance to answer the previous one. Just to add to the identification and maintenance, last year we did something different. We worked with the trust and we found it beneficial working with the trust to identify maintenance needs. So if that helps answer that question. The question on the flood wall, yes, the flood wall is a regional council, but just recently council put the viewing platform around it, and there's a pinch point around that viewing platform. So in my view, it's this council's responsibility just to do that small bit of widening around that area, so we've got sufficient room for cyclists and pedestrians who use the flood wall. If that answers the question.
Councillor Moore?
Just quickly, Mel, I've used the trail a little bit over lockdown. That viewing platform, there's been a bit of damage to the information panel on the Maori origin of the name of the gap in the hills. The second part of it has actually been broken off, and if you're not careful, you're going to lose it completely.
Noted, Mel?
Noted that. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Okay, so we do have to acknowledge that they are a very hard-working committee, and it does actually put quite a few benefits into our district as well as Westlands. There's still people that stay here for accommodation on the side, either at the start or the end, and there are businesses that are still even starting here on the back of the trail. So we'll put that to the vote then. Are we ready? Everybody in favour, please raise your hand. It looks like everybody to me, so motion carried. Thank you, Debbie. Moving on to page 53, the annual report on dog control and policy practices 2020-2021. The recommendation is from Councillor McBride and is on page 55.
The suggested recommendation is that 1, the annual report on dog control policy and practices 2020-2021 be received, and 2, Council adopts the annual report on dog control policy and practices 2020-2021. 3, Council gives notice of the report by means of notice in the local press and Council website. 4, Council provides a copy of the report to the Secretary of Local Government.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Hay?
Yeah, I'm just trying to unmute. Yeah, I'd just like to comment on the hard-working 2 dog control officers that we have. I mean, they spend a lot of time at the pound. It's quite often like a 7-day-a-week job for the pair of them, or for either of them, and they manage it very well. It mentions in the report about the 620 kilometres of the district that they cover as part of their job. So I'd just like to make a note of their hard work that they do, and good job that they do. Thank you.
Thank you. It is quite a contentious one sometimes with people in their dog registration, but I don't think they actually sometimes understand what it's actually involved.
Hostile environment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Are there any other comments there? No? All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? Motion carried. Moving on to page 56, landfill funding assistant applications 2021-2022 for the financial year. The council has approved 5,000 as support for sporting, community and welfare groups to help with landfill fees. There's been many applications this time for support, and it is very difficult to allocate, but our staff have done the best that they can. I do have a lot of concern though for the Salvation Army as well, and what we've seen over the lockdown time, and they're really certainly getting dumped with a lot of people's stuff that is absolutely no good to them. So, you know, it's hard for those people in the community, but the recommendation is on Councillor Green from page 57.
At 1, the report 2021 landfill assistance be received, and 2, council approves as full and final allocation support to pay for waste disposal fees at McLean landfill base on applications received as outlined hereunder, on the basis that allocations will not exceed the available budget of $5,000 and will not be payable in cash to recipients.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gibson, thank you. Are there any comments? Councillor Mora?
I find the 77 tonne an awful amount, and I absolutely understand their position. We have the same issue with the op shop in Cobden, and I know that the others do as well. I know that when we take our waste and we give them our voucher, they record how much we dump and it goes against our account. I would be interested in a third column for next time around of actual usage over the previous year. That would actually, because at the moment we're allocating it on the basis of what they ask for, and then they get a pro rata amount of what they've asked for. I'd be interested to know how what they're asking reflects actual dumping. So I'd like to request that a third column be added for next year, which shows actual dumping tonnage.
So Councillor Moore, you won't be voting on this item, will you? Because you do have the comment.
That's correct.
You, Councillor Hay?
Yes, this probably isn't the right time to be discussing raising that $5,000 and the allocation, but maybe in the next LTP or the next annual plan that we should look at raising that if we can, possibly, bearing in mind how much short we are in finances. But I mean, this happens every year. All the groups that are ask for a certain amount and they get a pittance of what they actually ask for, especially the Salvation Army. And my former involvement, I'm not now, but my former involvement with the SPCA, I know how much they have to put out kitty litter filled with feces and urine from wrapped in newspaper, which is heavy when it's wet, and their load is quite, you know, it is quite underdone from where I'm looking as well. But yeah, it's just something maybe we should look at next year, possibly increasing it.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. I did have discussions with Paul this morning about that, and it was raised that it has not been raised for many years. Was that right, Paul? Or Catherine, did you have a how long it has been since it's been 5,000? So that may be a good suggestion, but how long ago, Catherine, did we put that 5,000 in place?
I'm not sure, but I think it's since the funding began. I haven't known it to have been raised since I've been involved.
There's certainly something that we may consider in that next long-term plan. Are there any more comments there? Councillor Haddock?
I'd just like Your Worship to endorse what Councillor Morris said. You know, that I looked at it also quite heavily and thought, you know, anyone can put in a request for a figure of what they suspect, but it would be very handy. And I think Tim's actually made a really valid point there. Thank you.
Thank you. Something to discuss for that long-term plan. Are there any more comments there? Everyone's disappeared off my screen now. So here we go. So everybody's quite happy. Should we put that to the vote? All those in favour, please raise your hands. Motion carried. Oops, all those against, sorry. But Councillor Moore is abstaining there. So motion carried. Okay, turning to page 62, funding of the Renunga Dog Park. So this is an item that was passed some time ago as well, and the funding was never uplifted. It is great to see that there is a lot of action happening out in Renunga with the community at the moment, and they're mobilising with new ideas and initiatives that we are working with them on. And council has also been out there doing some work to the playground, which has been great. So the recommendation is from Councillor Becker.
Okay, the recommendation is 1, the report funding of Renunga Dog Park be received, and 2, council approves grant funding for the dog park of 15,000 from the land sale reserve, with the condition that the funds are spent by 30 June 2022. Could I speak to that as well, please, Your Worship?
Yes, can I have a seconder first, please? Councillor Haddock, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Becker.
I just wonder, is 30 June too long? What's their proposed timeframe to actually get this built? Well, it should be well finished by then this time, won't it?
We would hope so. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Green, or quite happy with that?
Yeah, with that new village people group being set up, we're just identifying different projects, and so with that, it shouldn't be far away, because that's one of the main ones we want to get done, as well as around that park area where we went around and had a look where they're getting in on the four-wheelers and doing a whole lot of work around that. So yeah, it should be plenty of time.
Would you like to make an amendment to that, Councillor Becker, or would you quite happily?
We'll take it that they'll do their best to get it finished early, because council are being quite generous with this, and I think it's good that they're getting behind and doing something. Let's get it done.
Councillor Gibson, you're on mute.
Me? Yeah. What's the main reason why the money wasn't picked up last time? Is it just no one wanted to get behind it and do it, or the new enthusiasm's made a lot better? I know it's good to see the interest, but what happened last time?
Thanks, Councillor Green.
Oh,
you're muted again. You're muted.
Oh, is that better?
You're all good.
Sorry. I think what happened was that when it was initially proposed, that Councillor Sandry was the councillor at the time, and he was going to do all this, get his machinery and come down and do it, and it never got started, and yeah, he kind of lost interest. And we asked several times, and nothing ever got away. So this time, yeah, we're going to get it going.
Thank you for that. Any more comments? Thank you, Councillor Hay.
Yes, I just think it's a great opportunity for the Renunga community, the wider Renunga community. We see how popular the Preston Road one is and the Cobden one is, and if we can get behind this and get it up and running, I think we all should be, pushing it. Thank you.
Councillor Green, I believe you'll probably have to abstain from this vote, and being in the Renunga community and having involvement in that letter.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there any more comments? Okay, all those in favour, raise your hands. Okay, so all those against? Councillor Gibson, are you voting?
I think he's frozen, Madam Mayor.
Oh. He may be. The motion was carried. He was the only one there. Can you hear us, Ellen? Everybody else voted yes, so we'll move that motion. Moving to page 72, miscellaneous items.
Could I declare an interest, please, Your Worship?
Thank you. That noted there, Debbie. Councillor Haddock is declaring an interest in the miscellaneous items section on page 72. So the recommendation is that the following documents be ratified. 1, deed of lease between Grey District Council and North Beach Fishing, being land at Merrick Street, Blaketown, lot 1 DP 1992-2090 square metres. 2, certificate imposing condition under section 75 in brackets 2 of the Building Act 2004 between Grey District Council to Mill Holdings Limited, section 61 and 62 in the town of Greymouth. 3, deed of lease land between Grey District Council and SM Hydraulics Limited in respect of land situated at Packers Quay, Blaketown, Fisherman's Shed, legal description part lot 14 DP 404994. 4, withdrawal of caveat and registration of easement between Grey District Council and A. Harnett in respect of land situated at 46 Pitt Street, Renunga. 5, transfer and merger of lease between Grey District Council and H.R. Honey and S.D. Kearn in respect of land and property described as 8 Reed Street, Blaketown, legal description being lot 4, DP 3372-freeholding. And 6, registration of caveat and grant of easement between Grey District Council and C.S. Reid and K.J. Reid in respect of property as 49 Marsden Road, Greymouth, legal description being lot 9, DP 608. I'll move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Green, thank you. Are there any comments there? No, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Haddock? Oh, no, you're out, sorry. I'm just scanning you all. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Turning to page 74, departmental reports. I did note in there the financial risks to council again with COVID lockdowns and the loss of income again at the Western Recreation Centre. We certainly can't seem to get a full year in there with ups and downs. And Councillor Becker also discussed with me this week the rising prices of the coal supply to the boiler and the ETS rising and the taxes, going from $70 to $150 a tonne. So another government policy that is at risk for us financially as well. Rising costs are also being flagged there in our insurance and potentially 52% of a rise. And capital and projects also becoming quite short with this COVID lockdown, which is also going to see many impacts that we're going to suffer from that, I think, at this stage. A very big congratulations to all involved in the Kaida water supply, from the councils and council staff and Isaac Construction. The project has extremely tight timeframes and has been done with quality work and is very near complete. So that's very, very good work there for those tight timeframes. Also, I would like to say in there is good work to Azza and Murray, who have been working quite hard on completing the project management, and Azza has been passing exams in project management and is going really quite nicely with those memorial halls. One project that I would like to question at this stage is the entranceways for our community services manager. I see that it has been delayed again and contractors' quotes, have they been finalised yet? And it looks like that there are some reductions in that project. Can you give us an update on that, please?
Hi, Your Worship. As per the recent update I did, we have got the prices in. I haven't had a chance to go through them yet. And yes, there were delays. We were set to start and then we had the lockdown.
And delays prior to that. Really, has this project been reduced in some manner of the indications in that update?
Yes, because with the budget that we have does not stretch to fit everything that we want to do. So we're going to have to make the most of what we've got and just do what we can.
Okay, thank you. And Mel, can we please have an update on how the damage was done to the approach of the Rough River Bridge, please, and if there is an indication that we may be successful? I know it's a hard one to even answer that, but how was that damage done?
Yeah, through Madam Mayor and the CEO, flood damage occurred at the same time as Westport was getting inundated. We got the edge of that storm event for Rough River. So yes, that's what caused the damage there. And yes, we have applied to NZTA for emergency works funding, and touch wood, we should be successful on getting subsidy.
Okay, thank you for that. The recommendation is that the group management be report and received and the information be noted. I'll move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor McDonald, thank you. Now, are there any other more questions for the managers in those reports? Thank you, Councillor McDonald.
just one more thing regarding the William Stewart Bridge. I see there was a community meeting held on the 6th. So obviously that wouldn't have gone ahead, but is it being rescheduled, or is there any thought to talking to the community about that proposed change of date?
I believe that ESA has been in touch with the Turamaka people and that there is a change in date there. Paul, can you confirm that, or will that go to Mel?
I can't confirm the date, but I can confirm it has been. I did see an email come through from ESA to set it up again. So yeah, obviously, oh, there we go. I've just found it. It's on the 22nd of September at this point in time.
Thank you very much. There were some people in the community with an internet that didn't receive the letter informing them of the meeting until it was nearly quite close, so that it was moved in that respect. Are there any more comments or questions there? Councillor Becker?
Just one question on the operational budgets there. How are we faring at the moment? Like everything you go to purchase seems to be increasing in price quite rapidly with freight and fuel and everything else. Are we keeping a close watch on all of our budgets going right through on this?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, we are. And that is why there's a paper in the in-committee section to discuss that on some of the projects, because we have faced some significant increases. And as we obviously go through the tender processes for larger projects, those the increased costs get taken into account, and the tender subcommittee and or the council may need to either trim the budget to fit or trim the project list to fit the existing budget, or vote some more money to undertake some of these projects. But we are acutely aware of the increased costs that are coming through due to the current situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions there? Councillor Haddock?
Just through the chair, the Rough River Bridge with the flood damage there, Mel, I note that bridge was narrowed up quite significantly to the original waterway. Is that a problem? Will that create more scarring in the future, or is that all okay? Thanks.
Through Madam Chair and the CEO, yeah, the damage occurred on the Greymouth side, which is where that approach is. Yeah, the waterway has been assessed again by the designers and questioned, and they've provided assurances around that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, sorry, just one more regarding the McLean's pit recycling. I see we're waiting on a building consent there. Is there any issue that we can expedite that or expedite that? If that's what's holding them up, in view of getting the recycling happening a bit quicker. I suppose that's for you too, Mel. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Yes, yeah, we're keen to see those processes expedited, but they are processes that we have to follow through, and I don't think there'll be any issues actually getting the consent. We've just got to follow through the process because it's effectively a rebuild. That answers the question.
Thank you. Any other questions there? I also have a question there for John. John, we started producing a building newsletter to the building industry that went out for 1 month, and we've had lapses in it since. Is there any, I know we do have shortages there, but is there any way that we're going to get that resumed anytime soon? Because they quite liked it and they'd been asking for it for some time.
It is my hope that within the next week we'll appoint a team leader for the building team, and it will be his function, one of his functions, to write that for you.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favour of receiving the reports? Councillor McBride, yep, he's there, thank you. All those against? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. I will now move that we go into confidential. Thank you, everybody who attended today and who are in the public, if you're listening to us, and everyone's done quite well on their technology. Can I please have a seconder to move into confidential? Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Thank you. So we're just going to break now while Debbie changes over the meeting.